What's up guys, Ewan here. Today we're going to be looking into how to remove people from your photos in Photoshop. So let's just jump into it. So here I have a photo I took in Ireland. We were down there for the Power of Video conference in Belfast, and we drove up to Giant's Causeway. So that's where I took this photo. There were loads of people there walking around, so it was a nightmare trying to get photos without people in. So I've had to remove quite a few people from my photos. This is one of my favourites here. This was a long exposure I did about 5 seconds, I think. But yeah, there's loads of people in this photo I had to remove, and we're just going to go through that today and just sort of show you how to do that. So this is probably the easiest person to remove because they're in front of a consistent background. I find this method works really well with sort of a consistent background. If you have a more complicated background, it gets a little bit harder and a bit more finicky, but we'll go over that in a little bit. So just go over here up to the left and click the lasso tool, or hit L, and then just draw around the person or item you want to remove. You don't need to be particularly precise with this because Photoshop's fairly good at just sort of figuring out what you want to remove. So just do that. Draw around them like that, do Shift F5, or you can go up to Edit and Fill over here. That just brings up the same menu. So here we are in the Fill menu. It should be selected Contents, Content Aware, there we are. So what this does, it removes the item you've lassoed from the background by analysing the background and then filling it in, which is really smart actually. I don't know how this works, but it's just awesome. It's a great tool to use. So there we are, Content Aware Fill. If you do Control D or Command D on the Mac, which I'm using, and there we are. Because this is a nice consistent background, it's fairly easy for this tool to analyse it, work it out and fill it in a way that's not obvious at all. So there we go, and you just can't see where we cut out the person. It worked really well there, as I said, because of the consistent background. If you have sort of a more complicated background, it gets a little bit harder. It's not always perfect, but we'll go over that in a little bit. So I'm going to take out this bin here. It was in most of my photos, it was really annoying. But there we are. So we're just going to lasso around this. I would be a little bit more careful with the lasso tool here because of the sort of more complicated background. It helps to be a little bit more precise. Also, if you've got a drawing tablet or something, it's really helpful to use that to draw the lines around. I don't, so I'm just using a trackpad, but if you do, that's really, really helpful. So there we are. Shift F5 again, Content Aware Fill, Enter. And there we are, Control D. As you can see, there's a very clear line around where we try to remove. We get that quite a lot with sort of the more complicated backgrounds. So we're just going to go over that and try and sort that out. So if you just want to go to the Heal tool over here, it's this button here. To make sure it's the Heal tool, Heal brush tool, not the spot healing brush. Just want to right click it. Click next to the line. What that does is it sets that's what it's going to fill in that area with, that texture. So yeah, what you want to do is just sort of option click next to it and draw over that area, and just keep doing that until you've filled in this line. So option click next to it, and then colour over it. And again, I would do that every time. These sort of colour and texture changes. So there we are. Let's draw over there and over there, and you can just sort of go around. What that does is it sort of blends in where you've Content Aware filled and the background as well. And there we are. We've sort of blended it together a little bit. It's not perfect, but it's really, really small in the photo, so it's not really an issue. As I said, this isn't always perfect. This is sort of the worst case scenario for this because there's loads of different spots and colours and different types of rock here, which is sort of messing with it a little bit. But that's sort of the basic concept. You want to Content Aware fill it and then sort of trace around it with the Heal brush, alt clicking so that it changes what you're brushing over the line between the Content Aware filled bit and the background. So that's the basic concept there. If you have something like this where they go over loads of different types of background, I would do it in little parts where the background changes. Because if you Content Aware fill it all at once, it won't look good at all. So just do it in little bits, and you should get a good result. So if this video was helpful, make sure to give it a like and leave a comment for any suggestions for other videos or something you want to see, or any questions about this video. Make sure to leave a comment and subscribe to this channel if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.